When it comes to who the basketball GOAT is, so the greatest of all time, most people would agree that it's Michael Jordan. Now, there's some debate about this, but the debate's really not all that close. Michael Jordan won the NBA championship 3 times in a row, and he did it twice for a total of 6. But not only that, but Michael Jordan is considered one of the best all-around basketball players of all time, both offense and defense. So most great players in the NBA are good at maybe one or two things. Michael Jordan is good at everything. But you know when Michael Jordan really cemented his legacy as the best player in the minds of many people? It was during Game 5 of the 1997 playoffs. Michael Jordan scored 38 points, including a game-clinching basket, all the while battling a stomach flu or food poisoning. Some people think it was food poisoning. Either way, Michael Jordan put on one of the greatest performances of his career, all the while trying to keep his insides on the inside, which is very difficult, especially in the game of basketball, because basketball is a very up and down sport. Any person watching that game would have been like, okay, this guy is just on a completely other level. He's just not human. There's something so satisfying when it comes to someone churning out a victory, all the while the odds are completely against them. That's true greatness. So in the words of one famous boxer from Philadelphia, greatness is not how hard you can hit, it's how hard you can get hit and still keep going. A similar dynamic is on display with the life of Christ. So today's gospel, this Sunday's gospel, we read about the transfiguration, where Jesus reveals himself in all of his heavenly glory and majesty and power in front of his apostles. What's the result? Well, it's like an explosion of goodness that puts the apostles on their backs, which is the result you would expect when a person sees God, not just an angel, but sees God. But you know what's interesting? As awesome as the transfiguration was, it wasn't enough to strengthen the faith of Peter, for example, so that he would go all the way to the cross with Jesus. Because as we know, when Jesus was about to be crucified, all but one of his apostles bailed on him. You know what it did take? It took the apostles watching Jesus not only on the brink of defeat, but actually die. So on the extreme end of the loser spectrum, and still come out victorious. And any person watching that whole thing play out like a spectator would say, okay, now I'm convinced that this Jesus is not just any normal human being, but he is the greatest of all time. This is why, by the way, the early Christians used to carry around crosses. It wasn't just to advertise their faith, but it was to remind them that their Lord and Master allowed himself to be not just as good as dead, but actually dead, and still come out victorious. So here's a question for all of us to consider this Sunday, over the next few weeks of Lent maybe. What in my life is a situation that seems rather hopeless? It could be trying to get over a certain habit. It could be trying to deal with a terminal illness or some bad news. Whatever it is, name it and unite it with Christ. Unite it with Jesus, and just realize that no matter how hopeless it feels, no matter how long the battle stretches on, it will not have the final say.